Hi, everybody. It's Carrie Donegan. Welcome to Radical Age Reversal. We're going to bring in our win-win women audience and get started today. We're back in the book 30% Happier in 30 Days, which is absolutely incredible. I hope you're enjoying this journey. Welcome. I'm Carrie Donegan to my win-win-win women audience. It's a tongue twister for sure. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're enjoying this book, 30% Happier in 30 Days. Today we are on chapter 17. So if you're doing this one chapter per day, you would be on day 17. And I really am excited to share with you some personal experiences I have with today's topic. And today's topic is called Create Your Own Safe Haven. And I don't know about you, but I feel like there are two different types of people. And we hear about this a lot when we hear about people who are introverts and extroverts. And I used to think that introverts were people who didn't like to be around people, and extroverts were people who liked people. And so people would say to me, when I was a young child, oh, you're shy, you're an introvert. And I thought, well, can you be shy and still like people? And what do those words actually mean? But when you study them, it has to do with energy and where you grab your energy from. So introverts, they need to pull back and give themselves alone time to refuel and to gain their energy, which is different from sleep, right? This is actually conscious time spent alone to recharge one's battery. And then there are the extroverts, and they get their energy from the crowd. They get their energy from being around people. And so if you feel like you're shy or you feel like you're super outgoing, those are different personality traits. They're not actually being an introvert or an extrovert. But I think all of us, no matter who we are, find that there needs to be a safe place to go to. There needs to be not so much an escape, but a sense of surrounding, right? That you are surrounded by something that's going to protect you. I think when they study psychology and they look at women in particular, women by nature are driven with this desire to nurture and to care for. It's sort of a primal instinct, whereas men have this driven nature to provide and protect it. And if you look over history from the beginning of mankind, you'll see certain types of behaviors in these two categories. And one of the things that we hear from men and women is that when they're in these zones, they feel very fulfilled, right? So women can nurture anything. It could be animals, it could be the environment, it could be through their jobs. Of course, it can be, the obvious one is raising children or caring for the elderly. There is a sense of connection and purpose that comes naturally for women in these zones, whereas men find a lot of fulfillment that comes from moments of being able to provide protection and being able to provide provision. And so when it comes to all of us, right, who need to have a sense of well being and protection, lack vulnerability, we do it in many different ways. When we look at nature, we see that some animals protect themselves because they become a chameleon, right? They blend in with the background, they try to remove themselves from danger. That's why there's avoidance behavior. It's really a chameleon response. If I don't want to get into a fight, if I don't want to get into an argument, or I've had a bad situation happen to me, I may actually just pull back, right? Pull myself out of the situation, which is a little bit like blending in, or that chameleon response, that you don't want to be seen. You don't want to be seen as part of the situation. Now we know that there can be a protective nature to that, but we also know that that can be very harmful to relationships. So it's important for us to actually not engage in a very aggressive way or not in a threatening way, but also to be able to improve communication, which means being a better listener and asking the right questions, like how questions and what questions, and staying out of questions like why questions, which can often put people on the defensive. But no matter what creates a situation where one might be feeling threatened, whether it's perceived or actual, right? There's actual stress and perceived stress. Let's go over that again. We've done this in former episodes, but I think it bears repeating when it comes to today's chapter. Perceived stress is that anxiety stress. It's that this could be happening in the future. And so you're experiencing the trauma before it actually happens. It's perceived. So we could, for example, take a brand new driver, and the new driver is perceiving the possibility of an accident. And there's a lot of anxiety and nervousness around being behind the wheel of a car because the possibility of an accident is running through the person's mind at such a rapid speed. It's causing a lot of anxiety. On the other hand, you could have a very calm driver, a very good driver who ends up in an accident just by their fault or no fault of their own. And at that moment, the moment the accident occurs, there's a lot of stress and trauma. That's actual trauma because the situation is actually happening. It's not perceived, it's actual. It doesn't really matter if the stress is actual or perceived. Stress is stress. And we also talk about happy stress and negative stress, but stress is stress. So the stress, for example, of a wedding is the same as the stress of grief and loss. So, why do I put all of these different aspects in today's episode? Because I think it's critically important for us to lay the foundation of what causes us different types of anxiety. And I think all of us at some point in our lives, if we're human and if we, are honest with ourselves, that anxiety has or can play a role in situations. Now, some of us are prone to anxiety. I would say I am a person who is prone to anxiety, and there's probably a whole host of reasons for that. But knowing that that is one of the tigers that I fight, it's important for me to have tools so that that tiger doesn't interrupt my happiness. And then I can actually learn different methods and pass them on to other people who may suffer from anxiety as well. And that's why today's episode is a really personal one for me and one that's super important. I'm going to bring in my beloved essential oils just at the beginning to share a story with you. So, I was introduced to essential oils in 2005 when I lost hearing in one of my ears, and I was experiencing a tremendous amount of inner ear pain, dizziness. I was really unable to sleep. It was affecting my mood, and of course, it was affecting my ability to function. Through a lot of examinations and seeing different specialists, there was really no great understanding of how to fix the problem. There was some sense of what the problem was, and I don't want to go into all of that. It was somewhat congenital. It was too many viruses over time. At any rate, the important thing is that I was left with very little options other than medications that weren't working and had a lot of side effects. And so I turned to essential oils in 2005, somewhat reluctantly, actually, mostly reluctantly, because I was at my wits' end. I had really no other options left. And so it felt a little bit like, what do I have to lose? Now, fortunately, I was this much open minded, and that allowed me to find an amazing solution to my hearing issue, which today I believe is attributed to the essential oil therapy that I used at the time. But more importantly, it opened up my world into using essential oils as my number one go to when it comes to my personal healthcare maintenance. So for me, this is so multifaceted and so versatile, and it's safe and it's relatively inexpensive compared to many other therapies out there. I just love essential oils. So I wanted to introduce you to my two best friends. These are the two oils that I learned about once I had had my what to me felt like a miraculous recovery from my hearing loss. And that was to explore essential oils for stress and anxiety. And I came across some writing, and I wish I remember the person who wrote this because I would love to thank them. But this is going back almost 20 years ago, and I don't remember the reference, but I see these a lot. And they're the two oils of cedar wood and bergamot. And I was instructed that these two essential oils were very powerful when combined in actually helping you do something called havening. Now, havening is to be able to create, I think nowadays they call them like a safe space, but it's actually a brain chemistry transformation. It's how do I get my brain out of a state of anxiety into a state of reality? Because remember, that anxiety is most likely coming from a perceived stressor, not an actual stressor. And so, for those of you who have anxiety, one of the things we do is that we're always concerned with the future. And my daughter reminded me of something the other day, which I think is really beautiful. And she said, someone shared with her that we have to remember to be grateful for where we are today, because where we are today is most likely the result of the prayers we had yesterday, right? Our hopes, our dreams, when they're fulfilled, do we show gratitude for getting where we wanted to be? Or are we so focused on the next best thing, the next best hope, the next best want, the next best goal? And all of those can be good, but not at the expense of lacking gratitude for what has been given us today. So, one of the exercises in this book, actually, several of them go back to gratitude exercises. So, I highly recommend that you immerse yourself throughout the day in moments of looking as if you were on a treasure hunt for every single moment, and even those moments that seem a bit unimportant or seem routine. The fact that, I often say, wow, I'm so glad that my car didn't break down today. Or like yesterday, my daughter went to the grocery store and I asked her, could she find a large organic peach? Because I know they're in season, but they're not always available. So, we get what we get and we don't get upset, right? As it was taught to us from when we were kids. But today, on top of the refrigerator, I saw this giant peach, the peaches that you read about in Chinese mythical stories, these magical longevity peaches. And I was just so excited about a peach, which I know a lot of people are thinking, this woman's a little crazy. It's not a Maserati. No, it's not. And it wasn't a night in the Raffles Hotel, and it wasn't winning the lottery, but it was the most beautiful and flavorful and gorgeous peach, and I was so grateful for it. And it really set my mood in a powerful direction. And so we can either look for the holes in our life, the things that are lacking, or we can actually immerse ourselves. And I do mean that, like literally go deep into the waters as if you're diving into the ocean and immerse yourself in gratitude for what you have. If you look back even 150 years ago, the poorest of the poor today are living with more than the wealthiest of the wealthy 150 years ago. And so we have to be filled with gratitude for that. We can't be always looking at what other people have and saying, oh, poor me. Why don't I have that? I work so hard. I do so much. I deserve so much. Maybe what we're really lacking is a perspective in gratitude. So I come back to my two friends, cedarwood and bergamot, and I'm going to show you how I started using them. Firstly, cedarwood, because it comes from a tree, just like frankincense, is resin based. So it's going to be a little thicker than, for example, bergamot, which is squeezed from the peel of the Sicilian bergamot citrus, which is the most amazing citrus, I think, in the world, and it has this beautiful greenish yellow color that comes from the peel. And you're just going to do this. Now, what's interesting about this is I was always taught when I first learned about essential oils, and I have to say, my education in essential oils probably started out with people who were really focused on the metaphysical nature of essential oil. And then it grew into surrounding myself with people who were focused on the scientific aspects of essential oil. But one of the things that I learned 20 years ago that I am now relating to what I'm going to share with you today is this motion. Now, I was taught that you take the essential oils, when you put them through put them into your hands, you rub your hands together like this, almost as if you're washing your hands. Some people do it in a circular clockwise motion. Other people just rub their hands back and forth. Either way, I thought, and I was told it activates the oils. I don't know. Maybe my scientific skeptical side was a little bit like, what, like, what does that mean? Does that sound a little bit voodoo? But I want to share with you today some really grounded scientific information. And I'm going to show you first, and then we're going to read about it second. So just by doing this, and then I was taught to cross your arms over your body and then give yourself a hug by massaging your arms all the way down to your elbows and even here, right? Even your forearms. And then what I want you to do is actually just place your hands on your face, pressing down, and you can actually move your fingertips down to your chin. Okay. This is what I was taught to do 20 years ago when I first experienced essential oils and I was introduced to this blend of cedarwood and bergamot or bergamot, depending on how you want to pronounce it. That's totally up to you. No judgment here. So let's get into our chapter for today. I think you're going to be amazed. In the early 2005, in the early 2000s, which, remember, this was the time I was introduced to essential oils. So when I read this, it threw me back in my chair. Dr. Ronald Rudin, an internist with a PhD in organic chemistry, developed havening, a healing technique using therapeutic touch to change pathways in the brain linked to emotional distress. Dr. Rudin theorized that certain touching techniques could help boost serotonin production in the brain, allowing us to relax and detach from an upsetting life experience. The practice of havening involves one or more of the following techniques: rubbing the palms of your hands together slowly, as if washing your hands; giving yourself a hug, a technique involved in placing the palms of your hands on your opposite shoulders and rubbing them down to your arms to your elbows, down your arms to your elbows. And then washing your face, placing your fingertips up high on your forehead, just below your hairline, and then letting your hands fall down your chin, your face to your chin. From a neuroscience perspective, havening is a form of stimulating both sides of the brain, which is essential for healing. While you mentally bring up a stressful thought or past trauma, having gotten a boost during the pandemic when singer Justin Bieber released a YouTube documentary video showing him using the touch technique. While Justin massages his temples in a hunched over sitting posture, his wife, Haley, explains on camera, it's basically a self-soothing thing. When you're starting to feel really stressed out or just want to keep yourself calm, it's almost like when you're a kid and your mom is rubbing your back to sleep. And it's the best feeling in the world. It's kind of like that, except you're doing it for yourself. Dr. Rudin reports that his research has shown that havening generates high amplitude neuron oscillations known as delta waves, which we experience when we sleep. Delta waves calm regions of the brain involved in creating emotional charged memories and trauma. One of these brain regions is the amygdala, which plays a significant role in recording the emotions of our experiences. when it comes to traumatic experiences, the amygdala encodes the related emotions differently, becoming what scientists call potentiated. This means the trauma and emotions get hardwired into your brain and stick like super glue, having helped loosen the glue in your brain. Okay, so we want to loosen the glue of the trauma in our brain, and we can do that with essential oils. Essential oils are also really good for getting rid of regular glue, but that's another topic. So, before we close today, I just wanted you to practice this with an essential oil that raises serotonin. Now, these two guys are always going to be my best friends because they've been with me for a really long time and they've always been very helpful to me. But I want to talk about the three categories of essential oils that come from different areas because what smells good to me may not smell good to you. What responds well to my body chemistry may not respond well to yours. And we know the plant world offers something for everyone. So, what can we do? You can go toward the realm of what I'm going to say the flower family. These are very sweet flowers. Sweet flowers are good for anxiety. The first and foremost being rose oil. So, if rose is your preferred scent, then you can roll this on. And I would use the roll on, not the oil, because it's going to be too strong. Rub your hands like you're washing them, and then give yourself a hug. Okay. And then you can also do, right, the face washing. Also wonderful. If you want to branch out into multiple florals that are going to work synergistically, my recommendation would be Serenity or Clary Calm or just using Clary Sage. These are going to be high, sweet scented florals. Now, I really love Clary Calm, so I'm going to use this one. Again, you just kind of roll this on your hand like that. Wash your hands. Isn't that great? There's a scientific reason for things that people instinctively know. And then squeeze all the way down from your shoulders to your elbows, but crossing. The crossing is really important. It has to do with crossing over your brain and the neurotransmitters. Okay. And then what else do I want to talk about? Okay, let's go from bergamot into bergamot blends. So bergamot blends from doTERRA include Citrus Bliss, Balance, and Cheer. Now, Cheer is one of my favorite because Cheer is really good for your adrenal glands. So if you're feeling anxiety caused by overwork, undersleep, that kind of stress, Cheer is a great one. So I always smell it, but rub those hands together. This is the important thing that you cross your arms, squeeze down to your elbows. You can also go with something that's more middle of the road, which is going to be Balance. Balance is a good way to start your morning. So if you tend toward anxiety or a very stressful lifestyle, then you may want to be preemptive and work with Balance. Again, you're going to put it in your hands, wash your hands back and forth, right? And then squeeze the shoulders down to the elbows. And then the last blend I wanted to talk to you about that has bergamot in it is going to be Citrus Bliss. So these are for those of you for whom citrus is this go-to smell. This is going to combine all the beautiful citrus oils that you love, but it also has sort of a heavier note of I believe it used to be just vanilla, but I believe now there's Nootka in it. So wild orange, lemon, grapefruit, mandarin, lime, Litsea, tonka, and vanilla. So maybe they took the bergamot out. I have to double check that. Oh, green mandarin. Yeah, they may have taken it out, but the old citrus bliss, I guess, had the bergamot in it. But I think this would be so uplifting. I'm going to still recommend it. So again, shoulders down to the elbows. And those are the techniques that are discussed in the book. And again, his name, if you want to look up his research, it is Dr. Ronald Rudin about havening. Okay, so havening is a technique that we're going to use today and try it out and start our morning or interrupt a day that is stressful so that we can create a safe space. And using our essential oils is going to make it so much better. If for some reason you don't have your doTERRA oils on hand, you absolutely can just use the physical actions of the washing the hands, right? Giving the hug, and then washing the face. Okay. Those are all going to be neuroscience proven techniques to help regulate, right, or dysregulate a trauma or an anxiety response. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me. We'll be back next week with another episode of Radical Age Reversal. I know you could be spending your time anywhere. I really do feel a deep sense of gratitude for your being here today.